The Great Hall of Elysium Prime was the most beautiful place in the galaxy. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. Delegates from 400 species filled the seats. They wore robes of silk and metal. They spoke in whispers and laughed at private jokes. They were the rulers of known space, and they knew it. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked to the center podium. Her boots made sound on the marble floor. Every step echoed. Every alien eye watched her. She was human, and humans did not belong here. She had done this 28 times before. 28 years of asking, 28 years of being told no, but she came back every time because that was her job. That was humanity's only choice. Honored delegates, Elena said. Her voice was calm. Her hands did not shake. I present humanity's formal petition for membership in the Galactic Conquer. She held up the document. It contained everything: population, records, trade agreements, cultural achievements, proof that humans were civilized, proof that they deserved respect. The Velith Primarch rose from his throne. He was ancient beyond counting. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and split it into rainbows. He was beautiful and terrible. His species had founded the conquered 12,000 years ago. They believed they were chosen by the universe itself. Bring it forward, the Primarch said. Elena walked to him. She climbed the steps to his platform. She offered the petition with both hands. The Primarch took it. He did not read it. He did not even look at it. Instead, he held it over a small flame that burned beside his throne. The document caught fire. It burned to ash in seconds. Hall erupted in laughter. The answer remains unchanged, the Primarch said. His voice carried to every corner. Violence. Evolved primitives will never sit among the civilized. You come from a world of poison and death. You are creatures of instinct and rage. Be grateful we allow you to exist at all. Elena stood there as ash fell around her feet. She had expected this. She had prepared for this, but something inside her broke anyway, not her spirit. Something else, something that had been holding her back. She turned and walked out of the hall. The laughter followed her. 3 weeks later, Elena stood before the United Terran Federation Council on Earth. The room was underground, protected by a kilometer of rock and metal. Every leader of humanity was present: the president, the generals, the admirals, the scientists. They laughed, Elena said. For 30 years they have laughed, and while they laughed they have been killing us. Fleet Admiral Marcus Chen stepped forward. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and scars on his hands from battles fought long ago. He activated a holographic display. 6 months ago, we discovered something, Chen said. Conquered ships have been visiting our colony worlds, not openly. In secret, they have been releasing agents into the soil, chemicals that destroy the ability to grow food slowly. Over decades, by the time we notice it, will be too late. The room went silent. They are starving us to death, Chen continued. They want us dependent on their imports. They want us weak. They want us desperate, and when we are desperate enough, they will offer us a choice: serve them completely or die. President Omra Akono closed her eyes. She was a woman who had spent her life believing in peace. She had argued for patience. She had counseled hope. Now she felt that hope dying. How many colonies? She asked. 17 confirmed. We suspect all of them. How long do we Have 10 years, maybe 15, then the crop. Failures begin, then the famines, then the end. President Akwo opened her eyes. She looked at the faces around her. She saw anger, she saw fear, she saw determination. What are our options? She asked. Admiral Chen turned off the display. We have one option. We have been building ships in secret for 20 years, weapons that the conquered does not know about, drives that are faster than they think possible. We have 300 warships hidden across our territory. We have trained crews ready to die for Earth. You are talking about war, the president said. I am talking about survival. The room erupted in argument. Some shouted for war, others begged for more time, others simply sat in silence, overwhelmed by the choice before them. Elelina raised her hand. The room slowly quieted. I spent my life asking them to see us as equals, she said. I believe that if we were patient, if we were good, they would accept us. I was wrong. They will never accept us. They do not want equals. They want servants. They want pets. They want us to kneel and thank them for the privilege of existing. She paused. Her voice grew harder. I am done kneeling. President Okonkwo looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Call the vote, she said. One by one the leaders of humanity voted. The generals, the admirals, the scientists, the representatives of every nation on Earth. When it was finished, the result was unanimous. War. Admiral Chen saluted the president. I will begin preparations immediately. What do you need? She asked. Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had waited a long time for this moment. Just one thing, he said. A message, something that will reach every corner of the galaxy, something they will never forget. President Okonkwo nodded. Then write it, Admiral, and make them understand exactly who they have provoked. Chen turned and walked out of the room. Behind him, humanity prepared for the fight of its life. The age of patience was over. The age of fire was about to begin. Captain Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the TFS Defiance and watched the stars. Her ship was one of 200. They hung in the darkness at the edge of conquered space, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon. 3 months of waiting, 3 months of silence. Now the waiting was almost over. Her crew was ready. They had trained for this their entire lives. Engineers, gunners, pilots, medics, they came from every country on Earth. Different languages, different cultures, different faces, but they all wore the same uniform. They all carried the same hope. Yuki touched the photograph taped to her console. Her brother smiled back at her. He had been 22 when he died. Simple infection, easy to treat, but the conquered medical station had refused to help him. They did not treat Deathworld contamination. They let him die in a waiting room while doctors walked past. Without looking, she had joined the fleet the next day. Captain, her first officer said, signal from the flagship. Admiral Chen is ready. Yuki nodded. She pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations, this is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The ship came alive. Lights shifted from blue to red. Crews ran to their positions. Weapons powered up, shields activated. The Defiance had been built for this moment. Across the void, 200 ships did the same. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of his flagship, the TFS Prometheus. He was calm. He had imagined this moment for 20 years. Every battle he had ever fought, every friend he had buried every child who had starved on a poison colony world. It all led here. Open the channel, he said. All frequencies, every receiver in the galaxy. His communications officer hesitated. Sir, once we broadcast, they will know exactly where we are. Good, I want them to know. The officer nodded and activated the quantum burst transmitter. It was humanity's greatest technological achievement, a machine that could send a message to every corner of known space instantly. The conquered did not know it existed. They were about to learn. Chin stepped forward. He looked into the camera. Behind him, through the viewport, his fleet hung like a wall of steel and fire. He began to speak. This message is for the galactic conquered, for the Velith Primarch, for every species that has watched us beg for 30 years. His voice was cold and steady. For 30 years. You called us animals. You burned our petitions. You laughed at our ambassadors. You poisoned our soil and watched our children grow sick. You believed that because we evolved on a world that kills, we must be lesser. That we could never threaten you, that we would always kneel. He paused. His eyes were hard. You were half right. We did evolve on a world that kills, a world of predators and storms, a world where the weak die young. It taught us to survive anything. It taught us to fight when fighting a suicide. It taught us that mercy is earned, not given. Behind him, weapon systems locked onto their targets, 200 ships prepared to move. This is not a declaration of war. This is a notification. The war began the moment you decided our children did not deserve to live. We are just the first Deathworld species to survive long enough to make you answer for it. His voice rose. To every species the conquered has crushed, to every world they have stolen, to everyone who has been told they are not good enough, not civilized enough, not worthy enough. Watch closely. The age of their arrogance ends. Tonight he cut the transmission. All ships, he said, attack. The human fleet surged forward. The Velith border fortress was called the Eternal Gate. It had stood for 8,000 years. No enemy had ever reached it. No enemy had ever tried. It was a symbol of conquered power, unbreakable, untouchable. The garrison commander saw the human ships coming. He laughed. His sensors showed their weapons, primitive kinetics, simple missiles, nothing that could threaten walls built to last forever. He ordered his defenses to activate. Shields rose, guns powered up. He prepared to teach these animals a lesson. The first human missile hit his shield. It did not bounce off. It punched through like paper. The explosion tore a hole in his station's outer ring. The commander stopped laughing. More missiles came. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The humans did not fire like civilized species. They did not aim for elegant precision strikes. They overwhelmed everything with sheer volume. They filled space with death. The Defiance led the assault. Captain Tanaka drove her ship straight at the fortress guns. Her shields took hit after hit. Her hull burned. Her crew fought through smoke and fire, but they did not stop. They did not retreat. They had been born on a world that tried to kill them every day. This was nothing new. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Eternal Gate was burning. Its garrison was dead or captured. The human fleet had lost 12 ships. The conquered had lost its first territory in 8,000 years. Admiral Chen watched the fortress burn. He thought of all the years of humiliation, All the petitions burned too. Ash, all the children who died waiting for help that never came. Send a message to Earth, he said. Tell them it has begun across the galaxy. Species watched the broadcast again and again on forgotten worlds and oppressed colonies. People who had given up hope felt something stir inside them. The humans had done what no one else dared. They had hit back on a prison planet called Keith. Old Kree warriors pulled weapons from hiding places that had been sealed for 1,000 years. On the ocean world of Mora, resistance fighters began to plan on a 100 worlds. A 100 species remembered what it felt like to be angry. The war had started, but it would not end with just humanity. The Deathworlders had lit the match. Now the whole galaxy was about to burn. 6 months after the first battle, Elena Vasquez walked through a tunnel carved into solid rock. She was no longer an ambassador. War coordinator was her new title. She had traded her formal robes for military gray. The woman who had once begged for peace now planned battles. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Hundreds of Kree warriors stood in perfect rows. They were massive creatures, scales like armor, claws like knives, eyes that burned with ancient fire. For 3,000 years, the conquered had forbidden them from fighting. They had been civilized, controlled, broken. Now they remembered who they were. Their war leader stepped forward. He was called Grath. Scars covered his body. His voice was deep as thunder. You are the human, he said, the one who speaks for the Deathworlders. Elena nodded. I am your Admiral's message reached us. We watched it many times. We saw your ships break the Eternal Gate. He paused. His eyes studied her. Why did you come here? You do not need us. You are winning. We are surviving. Elena said, that is not the same as winning. The conquered has 1,000 ships for every one of ours. If we fight alone, we will die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually they will crush us. So you want us to die with you? No, I want us to win together. Graf made a sound that might have been a laugh. The conquered took everything from us, our weapons, our honor, our right to choose our own fate. They told us we were savages, that fighting was wrong, that peace was the only way. He stepped closer. He towered over Elena. Most humans would have stepped back. She did not move. We believed them, Grath continued. For 3,000 years, we believed them. And every year we became weaker. Every year we forgot more of who we were. His claws flexed. Then your admiral spoke. He reminded us of something important. What? That peace built on lies is not peace. It is slavery with a pretty name. He extended his claw. Elena reached out and gripped it. Her hand was tiny against his. The Kree will fight, Graf said. Tell your admiral he has allies. Elena smiled. It was the first time she had smiled in months. The Kree were not the only ones who answered. The Morani lived underground. Their world had been stripped mined by the conquered centuries ago. The beautiful forests were gone. The rivers were poison. They survived in tunnels, eating fungus, dreaming of revenge. When Elena came to them, they offered everything. Maps of conquered installation, secret passages, knowledge of weaknesses that no one else knew. They could not fight in space, but they could destroy things from the inside. The Ixen were different. They were beings of water. Their ocean worlds had been drained to make room for conquered colonies. Millions had died. The survivors hid in the deepest trenches forgotten by history, but they had not forgotten. For centuries they had been watching, listening, gathering intelligence. They knew every conquered ship movement, every supply line, every secret. They gave it all to humanity. Within 3 months, the coalition of the forgotten was born. 15 species, millions of soldiers, all of them had been crushed by the conquered, all of them had been told they were worthless. Now they stood together. The Velith Primarch watched reports of the coalition forming. He did not understand. These species were defeated, broken. How could they possibly threaten him? High Executive Thalos stood before him. Thalos was younger. His crystal body was darker, less refined. He commanded the conquered military. He had seen the battle reports. He knew the truth. We must take this seriously, though, said the humans are not fighting like anyone we have faced before. They are unpredictable, creative. They do not follow the rules of war. The Primarch waved a crystalline hand. They are animals. They will tire. They will make mistakes. Send the pacification fleet. End this. Thalos hesitated. The pacification fleet is designed to suppress rebellions, not fight wars. Then it will suppress this rebellion. That is all. This is a rebellion, nothing more. Thalos wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that everything had changed, but the Primarch had ruled for 10,000 years. He did not listen to advice. He gave commands as you wish, Thalos said. He turned and left. The pacification fleet was massive, 500 ships, weapons that could burn planets. It had never lost a battle. It had never faced a real enemy. They found the human second fleet at a place called Nexus Point, a narrow passage between 2 star systems, the perfect place for a trap. Captain Tanaka commanded the human forces. She had 50 ships against 500. The numbers were impossible. The odds were suicide. She did not care. All ships, she said, follow my lead and remember what they did to your homes. The battle began. The conquered ships moved in perfect formation, elegant, precise, predictable. The humans scattered like leaves in wind. They attacked from every direction. They retreated and advanced without pattern. They sacrificed ships to create openings. They fought like animals because they were animals, and they were proud of it. Halfway through the battle, new signals appeared on sensors. Unknown ships, 50 of them. They came from behind the conquered formation. Kree warships, ancient designs, rebuilt in secret, armed with weapons that had been forbidden for 3,000 years. For our ancestors, Grass' voice crackled over the communication channel. For our honor, for the coalition, the Kree hit the conquered fleet from behind. The perfect formation shattered. Panic spread. Ships that had never faced real combat did not know how to react. Battle became a slaughter. When it ended, the pacification fleet had lost 200 ships. The rest fled. The coalition had won its first major victory. Across the galaxy, more species began to stir. The conquered was not unbeatable. The crystal towers could crack. The ancient masters could bleed. Admiral Chen received the news on his flagship. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then he turned to his officers. This is just the beginning, he said. They will come back with more. We need to be ready. The war was no longer humanity alone. It was everyone who had ever been stepped on, everyone who had been told they did not matter. The forgotten had found their voice, and they were screaming 2 years into the war, Admiral Chen walked through a refugee camp on Mars. Thousands of tents stretched across the red dust. People sat in lines waiting for food. Children played in the dirt. Old men and women stared at nothing. These were survivors from the colony world of New Horizon. The conquered had burned it from orbit. 10 million people lived there. 2 million escaped. The rest became ash. Little girl ran up to Chen. She could not be more than 6 years old. Her face was dirty. Her clothes were torn, but her eyes were bright. "Are you the Admiral?" she asked. Chen knelt down. "Am. My mom says you're going to win the war." Chen looked at the camp around him, at the faces of people who had lost everything at the price of the rebellion he had started. "I'm going to try," he said. The girl smiled, then she ran back to her tent. Chen stood there for a long moment. He thought about all the broadcasts he had sent, all the brave words, all the promises of victory. He believed those words when he spoke them. He still believed them now, but belief did not bring back the dead. Back on Earth, President Okonkwo faced her own challenges. The war had supporters. It also had enemies. Some humans wanted peace at any cost. They marched in the streets. They demanded negotiations. "How many more have to die?" they shouted. "How many more worlds have to burn?" Others wanted the opposite. They wanted total destruction. Every conquered world turned to glass. Every Velith crystal shattered. Complete revenge. Akona understood both sides. She felt both sides, but she knew that neither path led anywhere good. "We have to find a middle way," she told her advisors. "Break their power, end their threat, but do not become monsters in the process." Alina Vasquez agreed. She had seen too much death, human death, alien death. It all looked the same in the end. "If we become what they said we were," Alina said, "then they win. Even if they lose." The coalition leadership met on a secret station hidden in empty space. Leaders from 20 species sat around a great table. They argued for hours. Grath wanted blood. The Kree had waited 3,000 years for revenge. They would not be satisfied with anything less than the complete destruction of the Vel. The Morani leader was quieter. She wanted her world restored, the mines closed, the forest replanted. She did not care about revenge. She cared about healing. The Ixan representative spoke through a translator. His people wanted only one thing: to be left alone. They had no desire for power or territory. They just wanted to swim in their own oceans without fear. Admiral Chen listened to all of them. When they finished, he stood. "I started this war," he said. "I sent the broadcast. I fired the first shot. Every death since then is my responsibility, human and alien alike." He looked around the table. "But I did not start this war to build an empire. I did not start it for revenge. I started it because my children were being murdered slowly, and no one cared. I started it because patience was another word for surrender." He paused. "We can win this war. I believe that, but winning means nothing if we lose ourselves." The conquered ruled through fear and arrogance. If we do the same, we're just new tyrants wearing different faces. The room was silent. "So here is what I propose. We break the conquered. We remove the veil from power. And then we build something new. Something where every species has a voice, where no one is forgotten, where no one is told they are lesser because of where they came from." Grath growled. "And what about justice? What about Punishment. Justice is not the same as revenge, Chen said. Those who committed crimes will face trials, real trials with evidence and judgment, not mass executions, not genocide. We are better than that. Debate continued for hours. In the end, they reached an agreement. The Velith leadership would face justice, their empire would be dismantled, but the common people would be spared. It was not perfect, nothing ever was, but it was something to fight for. 3 days later, conquered intelligence discovered the location of the coalition command station. High Executive Thalos led the attack himself. 300 ships, the best crews in the conquered fleet. The battle was devastating. Chen's flagship was destroyed in the first hour. He escaped in a small pod, watching his ship break apart around him. Half his crew died. Friends he had known for decades, gone in seconds, but the coalition held. Barely, ship after ship threw itself into the line. Kree human. They fought as one. Thalos watched his fleet being torn apart. He was a military man. He knew when a battle was lost. He ordered retreat, but he did something else too, something that had never been done in conquered history. He broadcast a message requesting terms. The Velith Primarch saw the message. His rage was terrible. He ordered Thalos brought before him in chains. You dare speak of surrender? The Primarch screamed. You dare show weakness to animals? Thalos stood straight. He did not beg. I showed wisdom, something you have forgotten. This war is lost. We can end it now, or we can watch our civilization burn. Those are our only choices. The Primarch raised his hand. Energy gathered in his crystal palm. There is always another choice, he said. He killed Thalos on live broadcast. The entire galaxy watched. Half the conquered military defected that night. They had respected Thalos. They had followed his orders for centuries. Watching him murdered for telling the truth broke something inside them. Species who had joined the conquered under foresaw their chance. They declared independence. They took their ships and joined the coalition. The war changed. It was no longer humans against the conquered. It was the galaxy against the Velith and their true believers. Chen floated in his escape pod, wounded but alive. His communicator crackled. Admiral, this is Coalition Command. The fleet is ready. We have 500 ships now. Reinforcements arriving every hour. Chen closed his eyes. He thought of his destroyed ship, his dead friends. Little girl in the refugee camp. Where is the Primarch? He asked. Allium Prime. He has fortified the station with everything he has left. Chen opened his eyes. Then that is where we go, he said. Send the coordinates to all ships. We end this. The final battle was coming. One way or another it would be over soon. The coalition fleet dropped out of faster than light travel. 500 ships from 20 species, human destroyers, flew beside Kree warships. Morani sabotage vessels held position near Ixen. Scouts, defected conquered cruisers stood shoulder to shoulder with rebel frigates. They had come to end a 12,000-year-old empire. Elysium Prime hung before them. The great station, the heart of conquered power. Its crystal towers caught the light of the nearby sun and scattered rainbows across space. It was beautiful. It was ancient, and it was surrounded by 200 warships. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the TFS Prometheus, his new flagship. It was smaller than his old one, less elegant, but it was fast and well-armed. That was enough. Signal from The station, his communications officer, said the Primarch is demanding our surrender. Chen smiled. Tell him the same thing he told us for 30 years. His petition has been rejected. The battle began. The Velith defenses were ancient and powerful, shields that could stop anything, weapons that could cut ships in half. They had protected the station since before humanity discovered fire. The coalition had numbers, they had rage, they had nothing left to lose. Commodore Tanaka led the vanguard. Her ship, the Defiance, had been rebuilt 3 times during the war. It was more scar than metal now, but it still flew. It still fought. All ships follow me, Tanaka said. We break their shields. Main fleet handles the rest. Her battle group dove toward the station. 100 ships against defenses designed to last forever. The Velith guns opened fire. Ships exploded. Tanaka watched friends die on her sensors. She did not slow down. Closer, she ordered. We need to be closer. The Defiance shook as hits landed. Hull breaches open. Fires started. Her crew fought through it all. They had been fighting for 2 years. They knew how to suffer. Shield generator targeted. Her weapons officer shouted, missiles ready, fire. Everything. 100 missiles launched from the Defiance. Other ships added their own. The volley was massive, overwhelming, the kind of attack no one had ever tried because it was too wasteful. Too. The humans did not care about waste, they cared about winning. The shield generator exploded. A hole opened in the station's defenses, just big enough. The main coalition fleet poured through. The battle became chaos. Ships fighting at close range, Velith cruisers surrounded and destroyed. Coalition vessels rammed enemy lines. It was brutal and ugly, and nothing like the elegant wars the conquered had known. Tanaka's ship was dying. She knew it. Her crew knew it, but they kept fighting. Hull integrity at 12%. Her engineer reported, we cannot take much more. We do not need much more. Tanaka said, just a little longer. A Velith warship turned toward the Defiance. Its main gun charged. There was no way to dodge, no way to survive. A Kree battleship slammed into the Velith vessel. From the side, both ships exploded. Kree had sacrificed themselves to save her. All coalition forces. This is Admiral Chen. The communication channel crackled. The outer defenses have fallen. All ships begin assault on the station itself. Marines boarded Elysium Prime through a dozen breaches. Human soldiers fought beside CRT warriors. Morani sappers disabled defenses from within. The pristine halls of the great station became a battlefield. The Velith Primarch watched from his throne room. 10,000 years he had ruled. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched civilizations crumble to dust. He had always survived. He would not survive this. His guards fell one by one. Coalition forces approached his chamber. He could hear the fighting through the walls. He reached for a control panel. Secret weapon, a stellar igniter. It would destroy the station, destroy the fleet, destroy everything within a light year. If he could not rule, nothing would. You would kill your own people. Voice said. The Primarch turned. A young Velith officer stood in the doorway. His crystal body was cracked. His weapons were drawn. They are already dead. The Primarch said, the galaxy we knew is gone. Better to end it cleanly than watch animals inherit our legacy. No. The young officer stepped forward. I watched High Executive Thalos die. He told us the truth, and you killed him. For it, I watched our fleet destroy innocent worlds because you refused to negotiate. I have seen what we have become. He raised his weapon. You said the humans were animals, that they would never understand civilization, but I have fought them. I have seen them spare prisoners when they could have killed them. I have seen them risk their own ships to rescue our wounded. They are not animals, we are. The Primarch reached for the igniter. The young officer fired. The Primarch fell. The igniter went dark. The war was over. 3 months later, the Galactic Assembly held its first meeting on Elysium Prime. Great hall that had once held 400 species of the conquered now held 500 species of the new order. Former masters sat beside former slaves. Old enemies became new allies. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked to the center podium. She carried a document in her hands. Humanity's petition for membership. 30 years ago, I presented this petition for the first time. She said it was burned. Year after year it was burned. They told us we were not worthy. They told us we were animals. She held up the document. Today I present it again, not to ask for membership, not to beg for acceptance, but to remind us all where we came from, and to make sure we never forget. She placed the petition in a frame of crystal and steel. Beside it sat ashes. The ashes of 29 burned petitions. A monument to arrogance, a warning for the future. The assembly voted. Humanity was accepted unanimously. Admiral Chen watched from the gallery. He was retired. Now he had earned his rest. But rest did not come easy. Every night he dreamed of burning ships and dead friends. President Okonkwo found him. Afterward, you did it, she said. You won. Chen shook his head. We all won. And we all lost. Victory is never clean. What will you do now? He thought about it. Go home, find some land, grow something, try to remember what peace feels like. She smiled. You earned that. Commodore Tanaka, now Admiral Tanaka, took command of the new Galactic Defense Force. Her fleet was crewed by 20 species, former enemies serving together. It was not easy. Old hatred did not die quickly, but they tried. Every day they tried. Years passed. The galaxy healed, not completely. Scars remained, but life went on. On Elysium Prime, a memorial stood in the central plaza. It listed the names of everyone who died in the war. Human names, Veloth names, CH names, all of them together. An old human veteran sat on a bench nearby. He had fought in the war. He had lost friends. He had gained others. Young Velith girl approached him. Her crystal body was small and bright. Why did you fight? She asked. Why did the humans start the war? The old man thought for a long moment. Because someone had to prove that where you come from does not decide who you can become, he said, and sometimes the only way to earn a seat at the table is to flip the table over first. The girl considered this, then she sat down beside him. Together they watched ships from 100 worlds pass overhead. Humans, Velith, Kreth, Morani, Inyan, all of them flying toward the same future. The age of arrogance was over. The age of equals had begun. And somewhere in the stars a message still echoed. Broadcast that changed everything. Reminder that the forgotten could rise. That the broken could fight. That the animals could inherit the galaxy. Not through conquest, not through revenge. Through proving everyone